Feminism promised women freedom and happiness. But today, 66% of Gen Z women describe their mental health as poor or terrible, and the majority of teen girls are in therapy. What went wrong?
Hi, and welcome to, or back to, my channel where I offer my thoughts and opinions about whatever catches my attention. I'm Kit, and someone left a link to this video, how feminism accidentally created a mental health crisis, and, well, that is quite a claim, so I thought we would have a look at it. The first thing I want to say is that this video does link sources, which I really appreciate. I have to say though, I find the premise that feminism created a mental health crisis, well, you have to be overlooking a lot to get at feminism as the cause. And also, so far as memory serves, none of the sources make that connection. But anyway, let's get into it.
Feminism promised women freedom and happiness. But today, 66% of Gen Z women describe their mental health as poor or terrible, and the majority of teen girls are in therapy. What went wrong? 1960s feminism had one central complaint: being a woman sucked. Betty Friedan lamented our comfortable concentration camps. Janis Joplin gave us "Women is Losers." And the Red Stocking Revolutionaries' manifesto, Feminist Revolution, raged against all past ideology, literature, and philosophy, products as they are, of male supremacist culture. They even suggested women needed to develop a new language to describe female victimization. Well, we're still speaking English and watching Jane Austen adaptations. And we're still repeating the feminist mantra, it's impossible to be a woman.
I have so many thoughts and questions. In no particular order. When did feminism promise happiness? I wasn't alive during the second wave, but I've come across nothing like, follow feminism and you'll be happy in my wanderings or readings. And on that note, nothing can promise freedom. I would also like to ask how we're defining freedom, but on that note, I recently read Faux Feminism by Serena Kader, not sure if I'm saying that right, and she identifies the following traps white feminism falls into. Quote, the freedom myth, the overarching misconception that feminism is about personal freedom rather than collective equality. The individualism myth, the pervasive idea that feminism aims to free individual women from social expectations. The culture myth, the harmful misconception that other cultures restrict women's liberation. The restriction myth, the flawed belief that feminism is a fight against social restrictions. The judgment myth, the fallacy of celebrating women's choices without first interrogating the privileges afforded or denied to the women. End quote. I'll link the book below if anyone wants to give it a read, but TLDR, feminism isn't like some sort of personal genie where if you believe in it or whatever, it will make your dreams come true and your life will be easy. And on that note, why do we keep talking about the second wave? History is important, but folks of this creator keep talking about the second wave as though feminism hasn't progressed beyond 1973. Though I have to say, even if feminism had just stopped after 1973, I feel as though some folks would still find ways to blame it. Also, is it possible this creator misunderstood the call for a new language? I don't think they meant another language other than English, but new words, which tend to be created when exploring new concepts, new ideas. But anyway, this creator isn't the first to blame feminism for mental health, and I find it so interesting the way we talk about men and women's mental health. Women's mental health? Feminism. Men's mental health? Feminism. Curiously, the idea that men have too much agency or will be happier in a kitchen is never suggested. Nor is the idea that women recognize they are struggling and are seeking treatment ever considered a good thing. No, they would be happier with less agency over their lives. Have women considered quitting work and getting married? That will definitely cure depression. I'm being sarcastic, but seriously. Do they not realize that's what they're saying when they blame feminism for things like mental health? Maybe this creator would be horrified of connecting those dots, but that is what this is about. People think women have too much choice, too much agency, too many rights, and it's bad for us. Therefore, we should relinquish them, and somehow that will make women happier. And I would just like to say, you might think you would be happier if you had less rights, less decisions to make. It would be so much easier if someone else would just tell you what to do, if someone else would just take care of you, but I promise it would not. Life is hard, life is complicated, but it's much better to have agency, at least as much agency as capitalism allows, than to give it away to someone else, no matter how much you trust that someone in the moment. And of course, if that's something you really want to do, you can still do it. It's just not legally enforceable. At the moment, at least. Anyway, back to the video.
That feeling was re-upped recently by Gloria in Greta Gerwig's Barbie. On the surface, the legacy of feminism is Barbie world, the world of girl power. Women dominate higher ed, lower ed, political parties, law, and medicine. But when we, like Barbie herself, leave Barbie world and enter the real world, we find post-apocalyptic hellscapes, shocking rates of depression, anxiety, and suicide among the very women and teens most receptive to that feminist foremothers mantra. It is literally impossible to be a woman.
It is literally impossible to be a woman.
That's the infamous line from America Ferrera's Gloria. At a key moment in the film, she sits Barbie down for a little real-world therapy session. Gloria informs a tearful, awakening Barbie that the system is rigged against all uterus havers. I'm just so tired of watching myself and every single other woman tie herself into knots so that people will like us. Gloria personifies a sinister, profoundly seductive therapy culture masquerading as consciousness raising. And Gloria's message? The system is rigged. America Ferrera later told the New York Times, "We can know things and still need to hear them out loud. It can still be cathartic. There are a lot of people who need Feminism 101, whole generations of girls who are just coming up and who don't have the words for the culture they're being raised in." America's analysis of the culture we're raising our girls in? The system is rigged. I'm not here to diminish the difficulties facing young girls, but I am here to say that Feminism 101 misses the boat. And the consequences for young girls, especially liberal young girls, are demonstrably deadly. They're not being raised in a man's world. They're being raised in a therapy culture that rehearses wrongs and licks wounds.
Oh man, so many thoughts. Feminism isn't about women dominating, and if this creator thinks it is, I'm skeptical about how much she knows about feminism. I'm also curious as to how therapy culture relates to feminism, but maybe she'll tie that in later in the video. It seems to me she's so close. She says that when we enter the real world, we find post-apocalyptic hellscapes. And yes, the global rise of fascism, the affordability crisis, climate chaos, and then there's the late-stage capitalism of it all. And we were not meant to know this much about each other. We were not meant to be unable to tell AI from reality. We were not meant to be advertised at 24/7. I can see a lot of reasons for a mental health crisis, and none of them have anything to do with feminism. I also have some thoughts about using the Barbie movie to discuss this, but you know what? That's neither here nor there. We'll move on. The creator says it's time to save the girls from Barbie's world, and she is going to tell us how.
Before 2012, there were no significant sex differences. Liberal and conservative teens looked roughly the same. But then, something changed. Starting around 2012, depression among liberal girls spiked sharply, rising faster and higher than liberal boys, or conservative girls. Since 2010, liberal girls rose 0.73 points on a 5-point depression scale, where the standard deviation is just 0.89. That's not noise. That is a structural shift. So what happened? The authors of the original study argued that liberal girls suffered because they were alienated in a growing conservative political climate. In other words, the man's world of the 1960s had turned into the Handmaid's Tale level oppression, a claim that seems implausible given what America actually looked like after 2012.
Okay, now I'm suspecting this creator is talking in bad faith. That is not what the study she showed on screen said. Actually, or in other words, quote, adolescents in the 2010s endured a series of significant political events that may have influenced their mental health. The first black president, Democrat Barack Obama, was elected to office in 2008, during which time the Great Recession crippled the U.S. economy, widened income inequality, and exacerbated the student debt crisis. The following year, Republicans took control of the Congress and then, in 2014, of the Senate. Just 2 years later, Republican Donald Trump was elected to office, appointing a conservative Supreme Court and deeply polarizing the nation through erratic leadership. Throughout this period, war, climate change, school shootings, structural racism, police violence against black people, pervasive sexism and sexual assault, and rampant socioeconomic inequality became unavoidable features of political discourse. In response, youth movements promoting direct action and political change emerged in the face of inaction by policymakers to address critical issues. Liberal adolescents may have therefore experienced alienation within a growing conservative political climate, such that their mental health suffered in comparison to that of their conservative peers whose hegemonic views were flourishing. This is especially true for less privileged groups of liberals, including girls and low SES individuals, for whom both heightened awareness and experience of conservative actions to restrict their rights may have compounded emotional distress. End quote. When people can't engage honestly, I really doubt how sincere they are about helping.
There's another layer to this story, one that helps explain how these patterns moved from therapy offices and into politics, classrooms, and culture. In 2014, Jonathan Haidt accepted an invitation to lunch with Greg Lukianoff, president of FIRE, who shared with him a chilling observation. While Greg had spent his career pushing back on college administrators who were suppressing free speech, in 2013 he began to find that it was now the students themselves pushing to ban speakers, censor unsafe ideas, or drive policy changes that would silence dissent. Greg, who had suffered from depression himself, also observed that in cognitive behavioral therapy, patients are taught to identify common cognitive distortions, faulty thinking patterns that both cause and worsen depression. Patterns like catastrophizing, black and white thinking, fortune-telling, emotional reasoning. CBT teaches people to notice these patterns, challenge them, and replace them with more accurate ways of thinking. But Greg observed, and Haidt agreed, that the students involved in protests, censorship campaigns, and ideological purity tests were using the very same distorted thought patterns, not as problems to correct, but as moral justifications.
I'm pretty sure students protesting against speakers invited to their college campus isn't a new thing. And also, is it just me, or is she, or rather, Haidt and his friend, using therapy speak to therapize student protesters? I thought that was supposed to be a bad thing.
Catastrophe became proof of oppression. Black and white thinking became virtue. Emotional reasoning replaced evidence.
None of the sources she's listed back these claims. And honestly,
instead of learning, my thoughts may be lying to me, students were being taught, my emotional reaction proves the system is unjust. It's what Matt Iglesias calls the Taylor-Lorenz explanation, that the world is so broken, unjust, and frightening that Gen Z can't help but be depressed. Iglesias flips that logic. It's not reality making you depressed. Rather, depression makes reality look terrible, and once entrenched, it becomes a feedback loop.
Let me know if I'm way off base here, but isn't that basically like telling someone to just be happy, look for the good in life, etc., etc.? Not terribly helpful in general, but especially someone dealing with depression. Also, Matt Iglesias is a journalist. Mental health isn't part of his wheelhouse. Weirdly, the creator goes on to talk about teens' access to social media, and I'm pretty sure we've concluded that easy access to socials isn't great for teens' mental health. I'm also not sure where feminism comes in, and this doesn't help.
Here's some personal testimony from girls who are online and have, shall we say, robust social media lives.
Because this, and this, no one sees the good clips, so like...
Right, because those aren't what go viral, so...
Yeah, no, but...
What gets clipped is you, like, acting crazy, because that's what's gonna, obviously... That's what gets views, yeah.
Yeah, but it makes you look some type of way.
Right.
So I would say the Brooklyn hate train definitely started that, like, the feeling of depressed.
Mm-hmm. This sounds to me like everything Gloria was describing to Barbie. In the last 60 years, women haven't built on the feminist revolution. We've doubled down on lines like, quote, we regard our feelings as our most important source of political understanding, and handed our daughters and granddaughters smartphones so they can ruminate on their pain without pause.
Citation needed, because I'm not finding where or who she's quoting that from. And what does that even mean? Also, I did see the Barbie movie, and I'm really baffled by how that clip apparently shows what Gloria was describing to Barbie. You know what?
We have to always be extraordinary. But somehow we're always doing it wrong. You have to be thin, but not too thin. And you can never say you want to be thin. You have to say you want to be healthy, but also you have to be thin. You have to have money, but you can't ask for money because that's crass. You have to be a boss, but you can't be mean. You have to lead, but you can't squash other people's ideas. You're supposed to love being a mother, but don't talk about your kids all the damn time. You have to be a career woman, but also always be looking out for other people. You have to answer for men's bad behavior, which is insane, but if you point that out, you're accused of complaining. You're supposed to stay pretty for men, but not so pretty that you tempt them too much or that you threaten other women, because you're supposed to be a part of the sisterhood, but always stand out and always be grateful. But never forget that the system is rigged, so find a way to acknowledge that, but also always be grateful. You have to never get old, never be rude, never show off, never be selfish, never fall down, never fail, never show fear, never get out of line. It's too hard, it's too contradictory, and nobody gives you a medal or says thank you. And it turns out, in fact, that not only are you doing everything wrong, but also everything is your fault.
If I'm understanding correctly, that personal testimony, which honestly seems to be from a reality show, but anyway, was about how the worst clips go viral and paint an unflattering narrative about you, and that can lead to a feeling of depression. How is it at all similar to Gloria's monologue?
Once an entire generation is encouraged to interpret discomfort, disagreement, or failure as trauma inflicted by external forces, resilience never has a chance to form. Therapy language, stripped of its purpose and weaponized by ideology, stops healing people and starts training them in fragility. And no one is more fragile, it seems, than the liberal girls.
So basically, she thinks girls are being coddled too much. And if you're wondering what the fix is, the creator recommends teaching girls that they do have control over their lives, which is iffy. As a teenager, you don't really have control over your own life. And depending on what state you're in, you don't have control over your own body. But I do agree with the following.
So encourage girls to get outside, get off the phones, get a job, date, fail, rise, and try again. Online life should not be more exciting than their real life.
Most definitely. Also, activists are happier than non-activists.
We need not just secular psychological solutions, but a spiritual renewal.
Oh no. I agree that education is important and spirituality can be as well, but organized religion, I'm wary. So I know quite well why this video was suggested to me, but I have to wonder if the person who left the link actually watched it. It seems to me that the creator was trying to link feminism to therapy culture and therapy culture to the mental health of liberal girls, and not doing a very good job of it. Part of me wonders if she threw feminism in there because she knew the video would get more attention that way. And, well, if that was the motive, she wasn't wrong. Most of this channel's videos struggled to get 5K views. This one got 40. And you know what? I clicked on the bio while scripting this, and we cut through the noise, break down the week's biggest headlines, and tackle politics, culture, and current events with a solid Catholic perspective. I should have known that Thomas More talk didn't come out of nowhere. And by the way, there's no reason to pretend everything is fine when it's not. Dissatisfaction isn't a bad word. We should always be trying to make the world a better place. And that's it for this video. My socials and Patreon are linked below along with sources and resources. I would like to thank everyone for watching through to the end, and of course, I would like to give extra thanks to my patrons. Have a wonderful day, get involved in something you care about, and I'll see you in the next one.